You are watching the Jersey Comic Crew. Right now, we are going into the Doom Patrol Season 2 review. What happens in the season? What kind of crazy character arcs? Who's the Candleman? Find out now.
Happy birthday.
Hey, everybody. We are the Jersey Comic Crew, and we are here bringing you the news and reviews of all your favorite comics, movies, and TV shows. It's still quarantine. I'm still Chris Heller, and with me is still
Rob Moran, what's up, guys? I hope
What's
you are
up?
ready for a great episode of the Jersey Comic Group podcast. Got a lot of stuff to talk about. First, we're going to be talking about Doom Patrol Season 2. Going to do a full review on one of DC's craziest concepts out there. And then afterwards, we're going to talk about the current state of DC and the comics. Things that a little bit changed. And we're going to sprinkle in some news about what's going on with the Comic-Con world. First off, Chris, before I get into the nitty-gritty details of Doom Patrol Season 2, did you enjoy it, and did you enjoy it as much as Season 2? I'm not talking about quality. We can get to that afterwards. Okay. Just pure enjoyment factor. For me, I enjoyed it as much as Season 1.
I definitely enjoyed it. After watching Season 1, you go into Doom Patrol like being like, okay, really weird.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
There's gonna be some weird stuff you're gonna see and weird storylines. I enjoyed it. To me, I compare shows like that to Umbrella Academy or not so much The Boys, but like weirder kind of offset indie stuff like that.
Okay. Which, I mean, Umbrella Academy is a fair comparison because the creator of Umbrella Academy literally worked on Doom Patrol and created Umbrella Academy based on Doom Patrol. So, that's Doom fair.
Patrol, yeah. Gerard Way was all up in both of those. So he's making all the money. But yeah, I did enjoy it, absolutely. I did enjoy Umbrella Academy more, and I think a part of that is just
Umbrella Academy
formatting.
As a show, like 1 and 2 more than Doom Patrol 1 and 2, or are you talking about Doom Patrol Season 2 versus Umbrella Academy Season 2?
I would say Umbrella Academy as a whole I like a little better.
I think I agree, because I think it's grounded in a little bit more realism.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Doom Patrol is its own unique brand of flavor, because it's just so much crazier and wild and kookier. So
yeah, absolutely.
And
there's nothing wrong with that.
Compare them, they're their own. It almost feels like Umbrella Academy is the more serious version of the Doom Patrol. So it's the two sides of the same coin, if you will.
Yeah, that, and I think it's the format too. I like being able to just go on Netflix and binge kind of my own way and watch it my own pace, and I got to remember to go back every week for Doom Patrol, which is how we used to do it as kids. But since everything changed, it's different.
Because I just feel like with shows, as much as I like binging everything at once, you don't get to savor it. You just scarf down the content and then that's it. With Doom Patrol, you kind of we had a couple of weeks and months where we were allowed to enjoy the content, and it grew on us, and it was good. It's like reading a good comic every week. It's great. As much as you would love to read the whole arc in one sitting, I don't know if you would necessarily appreciate the arc the same way if you had to wait every week. So, and that kind of goes 100%. Back to that battle of streaming versus regular network.
It's both sides of the same coin, same thing. Using that metaphor too many times, but
it's a lot of coins in the piggy bank.
It isn't some people some shows I really like watching one episode because you could, especially if it's packed, right, and you could kind of think about that episode and kind of take a break. And some shows, I don't know, to me I like, maybe it's just the comic format, or maybe it's just the type of show. I liked the Netflix watching it at my pace better than waiting a week, because I would forget certain days there's
that's
a new
fair
episode.
So what I want to do now, guys, for you real quick, give you a quick recap, and I promise you it's going to be a nice short and sweet recap of the 9 episodes of what happened in Doom Patrol Season 2. Kind of refresh your memories if you haven't been binge watching it or you forgot some things. Then we're going to go into our, the character arcs, what we liked about certain characters, our favorite scenes. And then at the end of the whole discussion, the same thing that we're all thinking, what happens next? We're going to touch on
full spoilers.
Yes.
Spoiler-tastic.
Spoiler review right here. So, Season 2 focuses very heavily on Niles Calder's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter's name is Dorothy, that he had with one of these crazy women from the Yukon, right? So season 1,
like Yukon Cornelius' sister.
Yes. So episode 1 is like the introduction, and we see Dorothy. We see her in the circus. Eventually, she breaks out with the strength of her imaginary friends. Dorothy has a unique ability in this show to create personas of her imaginary friends who manifest their own powers. So the whole season kind of revolves around that. You know, at the end of this first episode, Niles has to give up his pendant, which we find out is his secret to his immortality, to turn everybody back to normal size. And then that causes, a lot of the fallout throughout the rest of the season. He has to try to figure out a way to become immortal. Yeah. Next episode, he tries to get, like, Dr. Time's magical weird helmet to try to stay alive.
It's such a great episode.
Exactly. But then that kind of sparks up Larry, the Bandage Man. That sparks up his arc of, visiting his sons and, seeing that whole fallout. Then Calder, of course, tries to find another way to get immortality, visits Red Jack, who just likes to manipulate and torture people. And we'll get into that more, of course.
He's kind of like the Mephisto.
Yes, that's
of Doom Patrol. Yes. Like, he's kind of like Satan himself and, like, take your soul, make a deal type. Mm-hmm. But he has a chandelier head.
He eventually does that. We see Cliff trying to make amends with his daughter Clara and tell her the truth. And then Jane, her struggle begins with all of her personalities trying to take ownership of who is the primary, what's in best interest for Kate, the original person in that body. Mm-hmm. Then we get the crazy episode of the Sex Patrol. It has nothing to really do with the main plot, but it's just fantastic. Like, they throw a sex party for Danny.
They give you just lasting jokes, basically.
Yes, it's great. That's
phenomenal.
Danny's the street who became a brick, and by the end of it becomes a tire. He's going to create his own van or wagon or bus, whatever, for his
it's like a sentient street.
Yes, a sentient I think, what was it, bisexual street or asexual something. It's awesome.
It talks.
Yes.
It talks through notes and signs, and it's alive.
So next episode, season 5, kind of kicks up the big cataclysmic events that sets off to the season finale. One of Jane's personalities, Baby Doll, kills an imaginary friend of Dorothy, and that kind of sets Dorothy off. She makes a deal with the candle maker, which is kind of like the villain of this whole season, which is, another one of Dorothy's imaginary friends. Dorothy makes a wish to kill Baby Doll and some of the other personas, which forces Dorothy to try to run away. Niles eventually gets her back, brings her back to Earth, and that kind of leads us all into this climactic episode 9 of the crazy carnival scene, where Dorothy has to essentially become a woman and fight the candle maker, if you will. And throughout that, the rest of the Doom Patrol fighting their imaginary friends. Mm-hmm. So that kind of gives you a quick rundown of what happened in this season. It's a lot of craziness, yes, we know. But I think overall, like Chris and I were saying, it's a fun time. It's definitely a show to watch if you just want to, like, watch something silly and crazy, but yet have everything make sense.
Yeah.
So, Chris, I know we got to talk about our favorite characters. We got to talk about what their arcs were this story and how did they grow. I want to start off with Robotman, because I feel like Robotman, Cliff, had probably some of the biggest moments in this season. He finds out. Yeah. Well, Robotman and the rest of them find out that, the chief was responsible for all their formalities because he's trying to find a way to become immortal to save his daughter. So we get the reasoning behind what happened to them. And, he blames Chief for all this lost time with his daughter. And eventually Chief sends his daughter a letter saying, hey, I did this to your father. So, like, I wanted to get your view on the Robotman and how they used him in this season. Because he very quickly became, like, the main character almost.
Yeah, I think, well, one, it's needed because he's kind of the face of the Doom Patrol in the comics. And two, I liked his arc a lot. I liked that, season 1 was a lot more him having to not only deal with what he is now, but deal with his mistakes of the past. And season 2 was a lot more of him, all right, I've dealt with it. This is what I am, like, accepting it and kind of trying to move forward and making better decisions. So obviously, the biggest thing was him and his daughter Clara, who he reached out to, and he went to her house, and she was like anyone freaked out that this talking robot shows up during, like, your baby shower.
Right? Didn't she think he was a stripper at first or something?
Yeah, like she thought he was a stripper in the beginning.
Yeah.
And eventually she comes to the house and they have like a conversation, and kind of start to mend this kind of relationship where she thought he was either gone, abandoned them, or just dead this whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like trying to get back into her life, and she's pregnant, and he's excited that it's a boy. And he's also excited it's a lesbian wedding.
Yeah.
He says like this really funny line of like, he's like, "Oh, sweet lesbian wedding," like something about like hors d'oeuvres or something.
Yeah, when he first I think he's cooking her breakfast, and he first it was like, "Oh, hope your husband, hope your husband and you are happy. Is he a nice guy?" And then his daughter goes, "My partner's name is, I think, Allie or something like that." Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, let's be wedding. All right, there we go." Like very supportive, like he has to
like
be.
Like something about like the cake decorations. He says some hilarious like innocent joke.
Yeah, it was
but good. Like, yeah, I loved his arc. I'm also glad it wasn't like season 1 with him. Kind of, he tried to replace his daughter with Jane a lot of the time,
and he's still kind of like, he still has that strong connection with Jane, which is not a bad thing. I think that's good for their relationship,
Oh yeah, absolutely. But I'm glad it wasn't as overpowering as it was in season 1, where like every episode it's like he's just kind of being protective dad.
So with him though, I was very concerned in the beginning. Not very concerned, but there was some concern, right? Because like we saw him and how he was acting in episode 1. Like he was obviously mad and lashing out, and like he legit would go down to fight rats in like a boxing ring and kill all the rats and mark them up.
Beat up rats,
right? And I was kind of concerned that like they were just gonna take him and make him completely angry and not really give him that redemption arc, like kind of like make him hate Niles, and he was just gonna be like a pain in everybody's side. Yeah, because that's kind of like what Cyborg was season 1. Like he was, but he wasn't. So I was a little concerned of what they would do with his character, but I'm glad they did full circle with him making up with his daughter. Like I felt like he had a resolution to his trouble, right? Like out of everybody here, and which we'll get to, I felt like Cliff kind of got the happy ending resolution with his kid. I mean, he didn't see the wedding, but other than that,
yeah, we don't like. He clearly isn't going to make the wedding, right? And I think that's huge. Where she has. I obviously it's a little fast, right? It's only 9 episodes, so like you're not going to naturally go from like, oh, this is my dad who's a freaking robot, to please come to my wedding, that fast. But for the sake of Hollywood, yada yada yada, he has to call her and say like, hey, I have to go like save the world. And I think that's the biggest thing we needed, where it had to do with Niles, who he hates and blames Niles so much for.
Yes. But Niles also gave this chance back, so like he can't really hate him.
True. But he hates Niles and he blames Niles for a lot that's happened to him. And he actually chooses to go do the right thing and save Dorothy, his daughter, then go to basically mend the fence completely with his own daughter.
Real quick, when
so that was really cool.
With the chief into space to like talk to Dorothy,
that was great.
Great moment with Dorothy and Cliff. Like I thought was great. How messed up was it that Chief just literally pushed him out of a spaceship and let him land on the ground?
I think it's messed up, but it's also smart because one, he's a robot. He doesn't need air to breathe.
Okay.
He's made of pure metal. Like he doesn't need air. So, and he doesn't really feel pain. He doesn't feel anything. So he could land at like a meteor into the earth, and it's like he lands and he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm gonna fucking kill him. Yeah. Like, also, I love Brendan Fraser. Like, I've loved Brendan Fraser since like the Mummy movies and like Bedazzled and stuff.
Did you watch him with Sidetrack? Did you watch him in that Looney Tunes movie?
Oh, Looney Tunes Back in Action?
Yeah,
absolutely,
freaking fantastic.
Absolutely, it's a terrible movie, but absolutely,
it's
so bad.
I have only good memories of it. But
as a dwindling 16-year-old.
Yeah, I don't want to remember what happened in that movie. I just remember he was funny in it and it was Looney Tunes. That's all I need.
Yeah, he as a human being has gone through a lot in his acting career, and like mental state stuff. So it's good to see him back in the saddle. And I love his voice inside of
it was good.
The Robot
Very
Man.
good
I
voice.
think it's phenomenal. So yeah, I really liked his arc. I thought they elevated him and especially at the end where he makes that hard decision is a really good character development.
One last question about Cliff before we move on to another character to look at.
Mm-hmm.
Cliff, when he seeks out with Cyborg, right? And it seemed like everybody got a movie with Cyborg in their mind, right? Rita and him.
Yeah.
And then Cliff and Cyborg, they were great. But
so great.
When Cliff was with Cyborg talking to his father, who literally made Cyborg and said, "Oh, I can't help you, you're out of luck." Mm-hmm. I kind of felt like a cop-out just to not have Robotman in a more up-to-date and modern look, because I felt like if he made Cyborg, he could easily have made the tech to upgrade Robotman. And I wanted to see if that bothered you at all, because it annoyed me, but I got over it.
It didn't at all, because, if you upgrade Cliff, he's no longer the comic book Robotman.
Yeah, I get that.
Like part of the charm of his character is that he looks kind of like, something out of The Rocketeer almost. Mm-hmm. And he's very kind of like, he's put together with almost like copper and iron. Almost like the Mark I Iron Man suit, you know what I mean? Like, there's no real upgrade for him because of his brain is in there and all this stuff. I was fine with it. I actually loved when he went, did the cop bro buddy thing and, rips the guy's finger off by accident.
Yes.
And then later on, he's cooking for his daughter, and the finger's one of the sausages. He's like, ah! He starts screaming.
By the way,
she's like, "What is he?" He's like, "Nothing." And he throws it.
Such a dad thing to just throw out the finger. If a mom was making that, she would have threw out the whole thing like a sensible person. But dads were idiots. We're like, "Yep, the finger might have touched the sausage. Just eat around that part of the sausage.
Just eat this. Just eat this over here."
Like, if my parents were making that same deal, I could definitely see my dad doing that, and my mom's like, "No, we're gonna make you new sausages."
Absolutely, and it's so funny to me
it's perfect.
But it was great how he rips the finger off and just kept it for some reason.
Because for some reason he thought that could fix it.
He thought he's like, "Oh, I can put it back or something."
He's like, "No, to have a finger, that could work, right?"
Ended up in food is just crazy. But that was really funny how that came around. But yeah, no, I was okay with it.
Let's move on to Rita now. So Rita is the actress of the group. She's the thespian, if you will. She is the blob woman. So in this whole season, she was kind of
Woman?
I said blob woman.
Yeah, I know, but she's Woman.
Is she?
That's her
is that
real
her
superhero name? Yeah, like Woman. Yeah.
All right, well, Woman. Sorry,
she's not the blob woman.
Well, she's the blob until she learns to control her powers, which we saw in this season.
Yeah, a little more. She's a little better.
Yeah, right. Like she was working with Victor trying to get use of her powers, and she towards the end adopts the bee lady persona because she was in some theater play.
So weird.
But a lot of this arc of her character arc this season focused on her past with her mother.
Yeah.
She finds out that her mother slept with a producer to get her first role, and that's kind of how her career was perpetuated forward. And she had to deal with that whole guilt, and Rita was never really allowed herself to feel emotions. And remember that sex episode we talked about with the sex ghost and the sex demon guys?
With my favorite character, the
Flex
guy who
Mentallo.
Flex Mentallo is the dude.
He was great. Flex Mentallo kind of helps Rita get off, if you know what I mean. Flexing a certain muscle.
Where he has to turn around and stare at the wall, though.
Yeah, right, and put his nose on the wall so he doesn't see.
So great.
But while he's doing that, she's going through this, but because she has all this internal turmoil and conflict, it alerts a sex demon. A sex demon comes into the manor, and because of all this sexual negative energy in the air, gets sexually pregnant and is about to birth a sex baby demon. And if that baby screams, the world gets destroyed. This is fact. I'm not making this up.
You can't. How do you make this up?
And then, wait, what are the names? Oh, the sex men. There you go. The sex men come.
It's like the Ghostbusters of sex.
Yes, and they're blasting away sex ghosts that are just humping in midair.
They're like, there's too much sexual energy in here.
Which becomes a recurring theme throughout the rest of the season. But ultimately, Rita had to confront her own past and her mother, which she yells at bees for later.
She literally yells at bees.
Yeah. So, what did you think of Rita? I liked it. I thought it was a fun progression, but I felt like they spent a little too much time on Rita. I felt like that time could have been used somewhere else. I felt like they stretched it out is a better way to put it. No pun intended.
I don't know about the time. I think the time was okay because I think Rita was helping a lot of other people.
Yeah, that was kind of her role this season, it felt like.
Yeah, out of all the character arcs, to me, Rita's is hands down the weakest this season.
Oh, I disagree. I think Cyborg's the weakest, which I'll get to my reasonings later.
I actually think Cyborg's is one of the stronger, like, ethical show parts, but just wasn't done well. But we'll talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought Rita's was kind of the weak link of everything going on, because it's her situation is more personal, and it's more emotionally getting over something than having to deal with something head on, right? And obviously her mother's not alive anymore. She's dealing with the fact that, in order to get this part, her mother, did what unfortunately a lot of people did in those days, and a lot of Hollywood stuff. And there's a lot of stuff right now that's coming out about Hollywood still doing things like this all the time.
Yep.
So that's why the Me Too movement's around.
Thankfully, right?
Yeah, thankfully. And so there's, she has to get over the fact that her mother got her this part by sleeping with a producer. And obviously to her, it feels like, all right, I wasn't good enough to do it on my own. And she's obviously blaming her mother for that. And she's had to carry this around for decades and decades. And, part of her arc of going to this kind of stupid rinky-dink local play is to prove to herself still, after all this time, that she's a good actress, or she's this.
That she's worth it. Like, she doesn't feel like she's worth anything.
And that's part of the reason why you see her, and she's always kind of, pontificating her words, or, talking about her own movies, and dressed up, like, eloquently with a lot of makeup, and she's always done up, because she's still always trying to prove to herself that, I'm not a fraud, and it's not because my mother did this. So her trying to get over that, I get. It's tough to do when other people are dealing with literal things that are happening around you.
Yeah.
Especially with some of the other characters we're going to delve into. But I thought it was one of the weaker ones. But I did like that she became a really good support character with other people while they're dealing with
she's
stuff.
Almost the voice of reason for the patrol, if you will.
Yeah.
Like, she kind of like makes sure everybody has. Yeah. She makes sure everybody has their heads on straight and trying to like helps them. And then when she needs help, they help back. Like,
she's the beekeeper towards the end.
She's the beekeeper of the family.
Yeah, and she's starting to get control of her powers. So she's like looks to Cyborg as like, all right, you're a superhero, like teach me stuff. And then she, goes with what's his name? The guy with the bands.
What?
The guy with the bands, the spirit dude.
Larry,
thank you. She goes with Larry.
Like the band. He has a band?
the band. But she's with Larry, like, and is basically his support system through, in arguably the biggest character arc that kind of gets cut short. That I wanted more of in this season.
I agree with you with Larry, but we're gonna get to him later. I want you to talk about Cyborg, because we seem to have very different views on the Cyborg. So
I don't think we do. I think it's just one part.
Okay, well, tell us and the people watching at home Cyborg's arc and what you liked about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, so Cyborg had a very interestingly monotone arc. So basically Cyborg is still, Mr. Ethics, Mr. Right and Wrong, and I can look up anything in my, programming, and if you're a bad person, like, it's very black and white. And he, meets this girl at a group where there's a lot of PTSD from war veterans. It reminded me a lot of season 2 of was it Punisher with the group?
Yes.
Where his friend who has like a missing leg is running the group. So it had that vibe where people from the Iraq War are there, and all these people with PTSD, and Cyborg's there obviously because he got blown to shit. That's why he has metal parts. And kind of falls for this girl that's there who kind of calls him out and is like, "What? You're a superhero, so you don't get to talk?" Like.
And he's recording the whole time because he has his AI out or something.
Yeah, like, and she's like, turn it off, blah, 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 and this and this. So, like, they get to know each other, and he finds out she's, like, part of this unit that was in a war, and she got half blown to hell, and she's got scars all over her body. So they connect over that, and they fall for each other. But his arc is kind of just that, right? It's the girlfriend arc.
Yeah.
That gives him another person like him, but he has to get over the fact that she's done some terrible things in her past, because he's very black and white. And the biggest...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, but like real quick, the biggest factor I thought was in the beginning, where this one kid tried to steal her purse, and he stops him down. And he's like, "Don't worry, I called the cops already. They're on their way." And she's like, "What are you doing? Like, let this kid go. Like, you're gonna throw him into like the broken American judicial system. He'll be sucked into jail and thrown out and do the same thing over again because he has no choice." Which I thought was a really powerful moment and a really smart, intelligent moment. Especially throwing two black characters into that from the opposite side of the view.
Yeah, that was good.
I thought it was really smart. And, having that discussion of, well, he's basically like a super cop, right? Like, he's like, well, he did something wrong. He needs to pay for the crime and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, he's just going to be doing the same thing. Like, why don't we give him the chance to change by no one's shown this kid mercy. You know what I mean? So, like, I thought that was powerful, but they never grew on it, because I think they have a problem with Cyborg as a character in the show, and it's in the movies he's a part of the Justice League, in the comics he's a part of the Justice League, but his origins are in Doom Patrol, his origins are in this kind of weird realm, and he's kind of in the middle of mainstream and weirdos, and they don't really know where to put him.
With Cyborg and his arc, he also finds out that the mechanics in her were from Star Labs, and there's some tension with with his father, but that doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
I felt like you said it best, like the beginning of him like seeing things black and white, and she's trying to show him, hey, there's gray area in the world that you have to operate in. It felt like that was supposed to be the purpose of his arc in this season, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't well executed. I think they got hung up more on the girlfriend aspect of Cyborg and less so on Cyborg realizing there's a gray area in the world, because in season 1 everything's really black and white, and he had to deal with the fallout with his father finding out he was the reason because of this, and he didn't really have to deal with the gray in the world. And like, that's the whole Doom Patrol, is them dealing with the gray, whether it's weird crazy sex stuff, space stuff, or interdimensional stuff, right? And I felt like that would have been great for Cyborg to deal with that whole gray area of morality, judgment, right and wrong. Like, we saw perfectly in the beginning. Like, at first, I loved the arc with Cyborg. I was like, okay, this girl's going to show him what's right and wrong. Yep. She's going to show him that there's gray area. Like, this guy, you let him go. Yeah, he might be bad, but he might turn out to be good. And sometimes you have to take that chance. But it turned very quickly into him trying to fix her, right? He's doing scans to see what's poisoning her. Oh, find out it's his dad from Star Labs. Trying to see if there's something that he could do. Oh, after the crazy, weird dump control happened right with the little ants, she finds this magic juice, takes the magic juice, gets super strong.
Yeah.
Then kills somebody who caused her this pain, and she's pretty much going to be this bad person that she was always meant to be, and Cyborg has to confront her, but doesn't stop. And it's kind of alluded to the reason he didn't stop her is because he has those romantic feelings for her, and also the gray area of, like, is this morally right or wrong? Which is, like, was supposed to be a major theme for him, but it kind of felt like an undertone.
There was no end. There was no resolution. Like,
and I think that's because we didn't get episode 10, right? Episode 10,
maybe,
for Doom Patrol did not happen because of COVID-19. They were supposed to film it, so maybe we didn't get that resolution to that arc because of that.
Yeah.
But for me, it felt like they focused on the wrong thing with Cyborg. That's
it was weird, and I agree with you. Like, too, I agree with you agreeing with me, and vice versa.
That's it's your idea, so I would hope you agree with me agreeing with you.
So, yes, they agree with me. So I think they really didn't have time for resolution, and like, that was part of the issue with the season, is obviously due to COVID, and at that point everything had to shut down. They didn't have a final episode. Like, the season ends in the middle of, like, the climax.
Well,
right?
as much as I'm upset, I felt like they did end it. Like, they had to, right? They had to end it there.
The massive cliffhanger,
right?
Thing, yeah.
But it worked. Like, the ending worked because, like, in the comic book world, how often are things ended on a major cliffhanger? You have to wait the next season, right? True, I felt like this wasn't as bad as the Titans cliffhanger, which just ended abruptly out of nowhere just cause.
I hated the Titan season 2 ending so much.
I did, right? And it felt rushed the next season, right? I just hope that this doesn't get rushed.
How dare they kill Donna Troy with electricity?
Well, listen.
So stupid.
It's okay.
It's not okay. But anyway, it's it's just no, but it felt like
I meant
like
by the way,
even though it ended
season
like
1, just so you know.
even oh yeah, me too. Okay. But even though they ended like with episode 9 and it's a huge cliffhanger, it felt like there was one more episode. Like there's another episode. You're like, there's no way this is the last episode of the season. Naturally, right? Their natural progression, like it's there. So that's a little frustrating, but it's a year of COVID, so what are you gonna do? But yeah, I thought with him, I don't even know if that episode 10 airs. I don't think you get any more Cyborg and her resolution. I think
you don't. I don't think you do.
More the resolution with Dorothy and her stuff and the wax and everything. I don't really see their room and time for, Cyborg has to make the decision that culminates his entire season character arc.
Now, looking at another character with Larry Trainer, right? He is the burn victim that has the negative energy in him. He has the
spirit release.
Yes, he has the bandages wrapped around him so he doesn't release that radiation. Mm-hmm. What do you think of his character arc? Like, I thought it was very good.
Larry was my favorite character arc this season. Mm-hmm. Like by far. Okay. Like I thought Larry's character, because I thought last season he was more the background guy who just made breakfast.
Yeah, definitely.
And I was worried about that because episode 1 of season 2 is him making the mini pancakes.
But how great was that?
Which was awesome because he had to get like a dot, like the drip thing to make it, and like when he gives it to them, it's still like the size of a table because they're so small. So like, I thought I was a little worried. I was like, oh god, Larry's gonna be the cook again. And I was so pleasantly surprised they delved more because Larry's story is the Greek tragedy story. As much as
what do you mean?
Like as much as we know that Cliff has a tragic story because he's now all iron and he can't feel, Larry has to deal with all the things Cliff does plus emotions, which to me is worse. If you think about it, because Larry has to deal with like basically it's the same thing, right? He's wrapped in bandages because his body is so irradiated he can't not be because he'll kill everyone around him. And on top of that, he is, he feels all these emotions for his family who he lost and was never able to be like himself and never able to be, a gay man in like the 40s basically. Mm-hmm. And also he's actually Matt Bomer underneath, who's, let's be honest, a gorgeous human being. So, like, the dude's a good-looking guy. So, White Collar, great show. So, all those factors wrapped into one, and all that emotional stress of dealing with that just day-to-day, and getting up and having to put the bandage on and take them off, and you're in your room, and you're kind of in this prison cell. That, on top of everything, to me, is a bigger, like, deal with arc than Robotman, because he doesn't feel anything. So I loved his arc. I love that, the time thing, like the timeline is still straightforward. Like, yeah, one of your sons just passed away because he was an old man now. And he has to like kind of whip himself up to going to the funeral.
I feel like Larry throughout this season got numerous like knife to the gut, right? And twist, right? Like his son died. He's like, he feels that, but then he got to be with his son. His other son, and learned a little bit more. Then the knife twist when he finds out the son betrayed him to the Department of Normalcy to try to capture him.
It's crazy. Like I love the arc though because it gives you that solace period, or the eye of the storm in a hurricane, right? Mm-hmm. Like, okay, everything's calm right now, and then 20 minutes later it picks back up. It gives you that period of you're thinking, oh man, like good for Larry, like he could finally. Like, he has this conversation with his son in the barn where they're going through his stuff, and his son's like, my brother never gave up on thinking that you were alive somewhere, and him and mom were still looking, and he, into his death, he swore that you were around, and, Larry's like, listen, like, I gotta tell you, like, I'm gay, I gotta tell you, like, this is how it happened, and I never meant for this and this, and you get that, like, moment of understanding from him, where the son, you're like, oh, I get it, Dad. Like, and he gives him a hug, and then he's got his own son and grandson. You thought he was gonna have a happy ending, right? You thought he was gonna have a little like solace period in there, right? And then you find out the son's a piece of shit, and then calls, the people who attacked him
in the first place,
back in like the 40s when his plane went down, and captured him before. So
The other,
but I also love that Rita was there for that part.
Yes.
Like, to me, the only other character that should have been there was Rita. Because
they're the closest. They're the closest.
Yeah, and they've been there the longest, I think, with Niles.
Yes.
So, like, Rita's character and him, like, she's that mom character, and she's very, like, protective of Larry in general. So I thought that was I thought it was an amazing arc that I wanted more of it. It ended too soon. And then, his son gets shot, and I'm like, good, piece of shit.
Yeah,
but
right.
I wanted more. I wanted there to be maybe like a epilogue moment for him where he goes back and like almost like leaves him something that's like, I forgive you.
Which could be in the next episode. They could definitely do that little scene.
If they have time. I don't know if they have time.
One last thing with this show, like with this character, I should say, the other big gut check that he had was when, in that space episode, when the pioneers of the Uncharted Tomorrow, whatever crazy name is.
Oh my god, that's
when they came in and the one Russian girl had negative energy in her and she learned to bond with it. It took her like 5 years and she doesn't have to have that irradiation. That's another slap to the face of Larry, who's been dealing with this for 90 years almost. And
not only that, but she doesn't get knocked out when they have combined so she can use it and she doesn't pass out like Larry does.
Exactly. Like, that shows just the Larry, like, oh, the other aspect of your life, which could be going well, is not because, like, look at this other person who did it in 5 years and it's almost been 100 and you still haven't mastered it, which is another slap to the face. But
I think that's something he has to now, going forward, like, master, right? Like,
he has to focus
do we get to see eventually a fully mastered Larry Trainer where, like, he looks like, gorgeous Matt Bomer all the time? Like,
maybe in the season finale, but I don't think so, because that kind of takes away from his character. Same reason you can't upgrade Robotman.
Yeah.
Like, with these characters, you almost can't fix them because then they don't become who they are, then you get an ending, right? Like
I really wanted to see Robotman at the wedding doing the robot.
We didn't get that. I'm so upset. I would have loved that.
That would have been awesome to me. Just Cliff, like, I love lesbian weddings. Just a robot. Like when he's dancing in the sex thing, and the demons like taking over him, and he's like, what? Niles gives him like the equivalent of like ecstasy or something, and he's like, "This is great." He's going nuts,
and he's dancing with the sex demon ghost. He's like, "Hey, how you doing over there?"
And he's having like a dance battle.
Moving on to one of my favorite characters is Crazy Jane.
Yes.
So Jane,
I love me some Diane Guerrero, bro.
Bro, fantastic.
She is some specimen of human being.
I was talking about her character and her acting, but that is also.
Oh yeah,
true.
Me too.
Oh, okay.
Totally.
I think one of us is lying.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're totally lying.
Definitely. So, we saw more of her history and backstory, something we've always wanted in season 1. We saw like these dark moments of her as a kid, as Kate, essentially getting abused by her father, getting put down in the well as punishment when she didn't do what he wanted, and like that hurt. I was like, wow. Like, even watching that felt bad, and that's like the kind of stuff you don't expect to see in the show, and the show did very well. Like, all right, you get the fun craziness, but it's not afraid to have those deep emotional moments, and we got a lot of that with Jane. And then we also saw like her growing up. We see when Miranda starts coming to power, and she tries to like help Kate move forward. And then we see Miranda pretty much lose control because she was willing to go into this sex orgy and give herself up when all the other personas were like, no, you shouldn't be doing this. No, we're on the same page. And then Jane was born. So we saw the birth of Jane, pretty much saying, no, fuck you all, you fuckers. We're not doing this. You people are messed up. You wanted me to do this. You don't really care about me.
Too. Oh,
great
man.
Speech. Fantastic speech.
How about that guy played it so cool?
He did.
Where he was like the penniless guitar player.
Smooth operator.
Smooth operator, and then he's like, by the way, I'm having a party later.
Yeah, and it's a sex orgy.
Whoa! It is an orgy. Yeah, like, it was, I loved her speech at the end about, like, like, about women empowerment and like, just her own progression.
What love is actually supposed to be.
Yeah,
versus what they were trying to put on her.
Yeah, and like it wasn't a speech of like it's all this douchebag's fault, which it was, but it was like she was like, you stupid bitches, like this is not love, like why are you doing, like you're hurting everything else too. And it was very like raw, emotionally like awesome. Yeah, I love Jane. I think which is also why Diane Guerrero has the top billing in the show.
Does she?
Yeah, like when the show starts, she's the first name.
Oh.
And which is the reason because she is literally acting as all these different people at the same time. Which that shit ain't easy.
No.
So I think with that, and seeing her kind of underbelly in the mind, the underground of all the different personas and like where stuff is, like the well is kind of like where you hide like it opened up the underground in a way season 1 didn't, that I loved, because season 1's very basic with it.
But it did a good job, like the underground. It kind of like took you through people's different domains and stuff.
No, it did, but this kind of gave us expanded it so well. With the different characters and where they kind of sit, like season 1, you had like the grassy plain where like the kids were. Mm-hmm. But this one, it's like it was like all the little hidden secrets of the mind that you kind of like it was a metaphor to me for like stuff you just don't want to think about, that you put in files in your mind and put in the back of your head, and it's always there, but it's not present.
How great was it when Jane was starting to piece together that Miranda was evil? Well, Miranda, because this is not the real Miranda that took over, right? He's like, oh, personas are missing. Why are they missing? They don't have to be destroyed. We can rebuild them. Like, dude, nobody really dies here. Mm-hmm. And she kind of seems like to figure everything out. And Kate, like the young Kate, is vibing with her. Yeah. And then at the end, like Jane goes into the well, but starts digging and finds all the missing bodies and finds the body of the original Miranda.
Yeah, and she's like, "You're not." And the little girl, the Kate, is like, "You're not Miranda," and she's like, "Nope."
Yep. So there's
who do you think she is?
I don't know. There's some dark persona in there, which is cool because like.
Do you think that's to do with Dorothy, or do you think it's something different? Like future villain?
Future villain, like inside, it's somebody that Jane created. Maybe she didn't realize it. Because if you watch the movie Split, I'm not sure if you have.
Oh, yeah, I know Split.
Okay. So there's all these good personas, and there's this one ultra evil one that got created somehow.
The Beast.
Of all the dark torture. Like, that could be her. And I thought that was just a great natural progression and parallel. But like, oh, I've seen this before in movies. This is not a unique concept to me. This is something cool and dangerous and unique that Jane can still go through. Like, somebody with 64 personalities could still have one. They don't know who it is and could still be a threat. Because Jane, also, her personalities each have their own power, which means the girl Kate, let's say, if she ever combined everything, one of the strongest people in the world because she has all these powers. Maybe this dark persona could use all those powers or, like, force them to do things. Like, I don't know. Like, I think that could be a great season 3 villain. Like, Jane goes dark and they have to take down Jane to get her back into the family.
Maybe. That would be a really cool arc, especially with, like, her relationship with Cliff.
Of course.
And like,
even with Larry. Like, Larry took her to see the original well. And, like, so that relationship was budding.
Yeah, that was a really good episode where she goes down to the well and she finds the bear behind the brick. Mm-hmm. And, like, is connecting the dots. I love Jane's character. I want more Jane. I also would like to see some progression with Jane herself, though, instead of, like, she's so standoffish, obviously, because of her personality thing. But she never... I'd like to see some progression of, like, allowing herself to have a little bit of a life.
I think she's, like, trying to get her... this might sound a little weird, but, like, I think she's trying to get herself right before she could even do that. Like, I think she's trying to create order in the Underdark before she could be like, let's go hang out. Let's just relax. Like, I don't think she can even get to that level because she's so
No, not at all. But, like, I'm just saying, like, when she's present, in, like, you know, when she's the head of the crazies, and she's, like,
when she's the primary.
When she's the primary out in front, thank you. Like, even when she's at the house, like she's so standoffish and she's, like, shutting everybody out, which is natural for someone like her. But I'd like to see, like, in the future, maybe some progression towards, like, all right, let me try to get a normal life. Because what you feel for the Miranda character, right? Where she's like, all right, I have someone, she's in the mirror, like, this is going to be great for us. Like, we're going to have some type of a normal life. Like, we're going to be happy. Like, this is good. And that's what she keeps talking herself into.
Like, Jane has moments of those, but I definitely see what you mean. She doesn't have enough of that.
Yeah.
But, like...
But that's basically it for me for Jane. Because, like, I love that arc. But, again, it wasn't a lot, but that was well done and not in the amount of time they gave her.
And Jane's arc bleeds directly into the last one we want to talk about, the chief and the daughter, because one of Jane's personas, kills an imaginary friend of Dorothy that sets pretty much all this in motion Well, or maybe accelerates it. It's the better word, right? So we see Chief and the Dorothy kind of like the Chief doesn't know what to do with Dorothy. We see her put her away in Danny for years while he tries to figure out what to do, because he knows one day Dorothy's gonna grow up to be an adult and she's gonna have to face the Candlemaker essentially, right?
Like, and she was also like in the small train set like everybody else in the beginning.
Correct. Yeah.
He was keeping her like there, like she lived in a tent kind of thing.
And she like didn't know what was going on, but like, and she didn't age because Niles didn't age. So the second Niles was aging, she was aging. We eventually see like her becoming a quote unquote woman because she was in like not restaurant, like a gas station quick store, right? Mm-hmm. And she got her first period, and the woman there helped her.
That was a good scene.
That was a great scene. But
then, that was a great scene where she's talking to her through the stall.
Yeah.
And she's like, "You're gonna get cramps like a son of a bitch every month," but
she's like, "Don't tell your daddy. Don't worry about it." When in fact, she should have told her dad because he might have been able to save the world, right?
Yeah. Don't tell your dad because it wasn't, in a normal situation, it's different, but yeah. When
she didn't know that she's the
planet killer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like the dynamic. I like that kind of the villain is like this sweet little 12-year-old, 13-year-old girl.
Well, it's not really her, but it is her.
But it manifests from her, right? And she has all these different things, like the spider's like one of her best friends, that like giant, crazy-looking spider.
I think Harry is his name?
Harry the Spider or something. And she has all these like imaginary friends that become manifestations and interact with the real world, like almost like Force Ghost in a way.
Yeah.
But this Candlemaker, like, he basically is in her head all the time and is telling her to make a wish, and whatever she wishes in her head happens. And he is, he's waiting to be unleashed, and he can kill and do everything he wants, and control everything. So, yeah, it's a crazy dynamic. What did you think about the part where we got to like the middle of the season and we realized that Niles is basically planning to kill his own daughter?
So, like
what did you think of that?
Obviously, I was upset, right? I was like, "Oh, you gotta kill him," but like, I kind of like his hand was forced. Like, I didn't think, I really didn't think anything of it in the moment because I didn't know if it was actually gonna happen. It just kind of
the wizard dude who comes through, who's really funny.
Yeah, he's great. Like, I didn't think that would have happened. I'm like, all right, this Doom Patrol, they're gonna have to figure out some other way to stop this, right? Because like, Niles didn't know what to do, right? So he hit her away. Niles didn't know what to do, and now
I thought it was a little weak. I thought it was a little weak. Because Niles Calder is supposed to be one of these like ridiculously brilliant minds, right under like Silas Stone, who created Cyborg, his son, when he almost died. Mm-hmm. And Niles Calder's been around for hundreds of years, and he kept Cliff alive with a brain and metal, and he kept all these different hardcore cases alive with different things, and he has spaceships in his garage and all this stuff. I thought the basic, like, hey, because this is more magic per se, that I have to kill her, and there's no way that I can save her, or there's no thought. Like, I thought it was kind of weak, and I'm like, dude, like, one, it's your daughter, like, because we get that epic episode in season 1 where he like is in the wilderness and falls in love with the beard lady, and it's a crazy long episode, and it's just him and her, and it's a great episode. And then you see the fruits of that love in this little girl who's like very sweet, and like she's so like nice and proper, and she just wants to have tea parties. And it becomes like, oh, like, I love her but I have to kill her. To me, it was a little
like
weak.
A cop out.
Yeah, I was like, dude, you did all this. When it comes to your own kid, you're just like, oh, let's go.
I think the reason it felt that way is because obviously the whole point of Dorothy's arc is that she's going to become a woman. She has to do this on her own, and she has to take down the Candlemaker. Like, we can see that. Yeah, she has the boots. She's going to become like her mother, become strong. And it's a trial that she has to go through to take it down. Like, I can see where that's going, but like the fact that like her father is so lost in it, which I kind of get the parallel. Like, sometimes dads are lost at how to raise their own daughter, and like the mother knows best, and we kind of see glimpses of that. Like, we have the vision of the mother saying it's time, she has to do this, and him not knowing what to do. Like, I get it, but like it didn't feel as believable for the reasons you said. Like, he's supposed to be this hyper intelligent individual. Like, he should be able to figure out, oh, this is a trial that she has to pass, and instead of hiding her, like, be training her. Like, I feel like that could have been a better route, or like the fact that he didn't know any of this at all. Like, I see where they're going, like the plausible deniability with him, but it just didn't seem plausible, right? It just didn't seem like he was just denying it for denying sake because he didn't know what to do, and like the season didn't take enough time to show him doing the quote unquote magical research to try to figure out what's happening. Yeah, it just took it for granted that he didn't know what to do.
That, and it seemed like his buddy was doing a lot of it, where he's like, when you have to call me, what's the date, what's the time, we have to keep a schedule.
The other downside,
which that derailed into that really funny like realm where it's like there's nothing, and the dude from season 1's like, don't move, they'll see you.
The beard hunter, yeah.
The beard hunter, that's right. The guy who eats just it's so gross. And so like that was a really where they like eat this like those things eat the dumb thoughts in your head. So like that was interesting, but I wanted, like, if this is your arc, right? Like if you're supposed to kill this girl and you have no other choice, like, and they played it up a little bit with like, he's doing the like, all right, like, what do you want to do today? We're gonna do whatever you want to do today.
That was good.
The fair. But I don't know. I felt like that's not Niles Calder, right? Like he always kind of finds a way.
I felt like there was enough time for him to do this, if that makes sense. Like with so many characters, with Doom Patrol having these great arcs or even average arcs, like to take Niles to the other level of like, oh, this is why he doesn't know what to do. I think they were just like, all right, it might not pay off to take time away from Larry's story arc to put in some scenes about him doing this, or we don't have enough time to throw it in another episode.
Maybe
we're just gonna have to cut it. And like if that's why, like I'm fine that they cut that part. If that means we had to cut this so that way Larry and Cliff and the other characters could have better stories, I think it's better for the overall show. When we're just looking at the specific character, that's kind of where it's lacking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
So now, I guess now our conversation comes to like the ending, right? What do you think happens next, right? With this huge cliffhanger that Dorothy kind of made her own weapon. She has these red Native American boots on. She jumps into the portal while everybody else is fighting their imaginary friend. Cliff's fighting Jesus.
That was hilarious.
Rita's fighting a paper doll. Larry's...
Jesus Christ!
Who's Larry fighting? Is Larry even there?
Was Larry there?
I don't remember Larry fighting.
I don't think Larry was there.
I know Cyborg was fighting Cowboy Doctor.
Cowboy Doc, who was like the best version of his dad.
Yeah, I think Larry got like frozen right away.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I think
because Rita was fighting her paper cut version of her mom, her kid drawing version of her mother.
Yeah, I think Larry touched like the wax and just became wax right away.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And the only one that's there is Jane, because Jane wakes up because she falls immediately because of what's going on in the underground in her head. So she wakes up and she's the only one left that's not waxed out or whatever.
I was afraid that Jane was going to have to like deal with all of her multiple personalities.
Oh, that'd have been crazy.
Because like technically, like aren't they imaginary friends? Like that could have been crazy.
Yeah, but they're real personifications though, so...
Well, I mean, this is Doom Patrol, right?
You go either way with it, but you had to have someone left, right, to figure something out. Like, Jane's the one left. I think what happens is, Dorothy is going to figure something out with her like Force Ghost mother. And because it seems like this candlestick guy, where we see that scene with Niles in the woods, right?
In the Yukon territory, yeah.
And the Yukon territory, he's like burning the pyre. And he's having a conversation with it. It seems like it's from the mother's side, which is another part of why he kind of doesn't know what to do, right? It's more of this ancient cultural thing that the women have to go through,
I guess,
or something, or certain women are chosen to go through it. So I think Dorothy's gonna have to go through it. Dorothy could be even more powerful.
I think Dorothy's gonna control her things, and then just like after this, like, say I need to go off on my own. I gotta live the way my mother lived, or some kind of nonsense like that. Go back to her roots.
But how do you undo the wax death thing of everybody? Well, like Cliff's in pieces, literally. Like Jesus blew him into like 80 pieces.
Listen, it's Doom Patrol, man. They had a giant cockroach and a giant
oh my
rat
god, that's right.
make out to save the world. They
That
can
was
do whatever
so
they
nasty. That's right.
I think it's safe for both of us to say we really enjoyed this season and we're looking forward to next season. Chris, 1 through 10, I want you to rate this. Even though we didn't get the final episode because of COVID, we still got 9 out of 10 episodes.
Yeah.
What do you rate this?
I give it a solid 8.
Okay.
I'd give it around 8. Thought it was really good. Some of the character stuff, like I still think they have a problem with Cyborg.
Yes.
And that they really have to figure out whether they're going to make him like the natural, normal superhero of the group that's way different because he's like a Justice League member, or they're going to keep him down on this level. Also, this is kind of nitpicky, but they need to really, like, hopefully HBO Max gives them a way bigger budget next year.
Okay.
Because I think Cyborg's prosthetics look like garbage. They like
in this season compared to first season, or just in
no,
general?
like both seasons in general. They look terrible. To the point where like his arm cannon looks almost like rubber, like it looks like it's like shaking and moving. And the facial thing is like barely even attached to his face, like it almost looks like it's off of it. They really need to upgrade that CG, like either CGI it or get better
prosthetics,
like builds. But yeah, the Cyborg thing was weak. And some of the stuff like some of the choices about Niles and Dorothy were a little, and obviously the last episode we didn't get, so I give it a solid 8.
I have to agree with you that it's solid 8, and the only reason I'm agreeing with you is because I didn't get to see the final episode.
Yeah, so the final episode.
I think
hurt.
that hurt the season so much more. Like you don't really get to get that resolution to see how everything happens and how it sets up for next season, because it just ended on that cliffhanger.
And also, I love the episode 2 with the time clock disco guy who like gets his head broken like an egg.
And then they rewind it so it all gets back together. That was good.
With Rita, that was really funny.
So, we want to hear your thoughts. Let us know down in the comments below what you thought of Doom Patrol Season 2. Who had your favorite character arc? What was your favorite scene? And let us know what you think is going to happen in Season 3. We're excited to hear your thoughts. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media platforms. Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video from the Jersey Comic Crew. We really appreciate it. Make sure you do that. Smash that like button. You hit that subscribe. And stay tuned because in the next few days, we're going to have another episode out there. Stay tuned.